Hollywood's golden age was built on perfect lighting, flawless makeup, and secrets never meant to surface. But what if some of the most celebrated symbols of femininity were hiding something far more unsettling than scandal or ambition? This story is not about proof or accusation, but about the dangerous space where truth, rumor, and society's fear of difference quietly collide. Christine Jorgensen began life as a quiet American boy drafted into the United States Army during the aftermath of the Second World War. She was not famous, not wealthy, and not connected to Hollywood. She was ordinary, shy, and deeply uncomfortable in a body that never felt like her own. Military life only sharpened that discomfort. Uniforms, barracks, and rigid masculinity made the feeling impossible to ignore. Long before the public knew her name, she already understood that survival meant change, not adaptation. After leaving the army, she made a decision that was almost unthinkable at the time. She traveled to Europe, far from American scrutiny, seeking doctors who were experimenting with procedures few dared to discuss. In Scandinavia, she underwent a series of medical interventions that aligned her body with her identity. It was not framed as reinvention or rebellion. It was framed as correction. She later described it as finally breathing normally after years of suffocation. The transformation was slow, private, and meant to remain so. That secrecy collapsed the moment she returned to the United States. Newspapers discovered her story before she could control it. Headlines exploded. Editors framed it as science fiction, scandal, and spectacle all at once. Photographers waited at airports. Reporters followed her movements. A personal medical decision became a national obsession overnight. America did not quietly learn about Christine Jorgensen. America stared. What shocked the public was not only the transformation itself, but how convincingly she embodied femininity in an era obsessed with rigid gender roles. She was composed, articulate, blonde, and graceful. She dressed carefully. She spoke calmly. Every public appearance felt deliberate, almost theatrical, as if she understood she was being studied as evidence. The media did not treat her as a private citizen. They treated her as proof that something once thought impossible had already happened. Nightclubs booked her. Audiences filled seats out of curiosity first, admiration second. She sang. She joked. She disarmed hostile questions with humor and poise. The feminine image she presented became both armor and invitation. Some saw courage. Others saw threat. But everyone watched. Her body, her voice, and her presence were no longer her own. They belonged to the public imagination. Hollywood noticed immediately. Studios did not openly claim interest, but the industry felt the shockwave. If an unknown former soldier could reappear as a woman embraced by cameras, what else might be hidden behind makeup rooms and stage names? The question was never asked directly, but it lingered. Could transformation already exist inside the system that sold illusion for profit? Christine Jorgensen never accused anyone. She never hinted at secret starlets or hidden surgeries. The rumors came from elsewhere. They came from fear and fascination. If gender could change, then femininity itself became unstable. The industry that depended on fixed images suddenly faced a crack in its foundation. Gossip columns began to look backward, re-examining faces, voices, silhouettes, and mannerisms with new suspicion. Her role in history was not as a conspirator, but as a catalyst. She did not open a door intentionally. She simply walked through one, and others imagined what might be behind every other door still closed. From that moment on, difference no longer needed evidence. Possibility alone was enough to generate rumor. Christine lived with constant intrusion, but she refused to apologize for existing. She framed her life as honest, not sensational. Still, the damage and impact were irreversible. She became a symbol not only of transformation, but of how quickly society turns personal truth into public mythology. Long after headlines faded, her name remained attached to a dangerous idea. If she could exist, then perhaps the golden age was never as simple, or as certain, as it pretended to be. April Ashley was born into poverty in post-war Liverpool, a child who sensed early that something fundamental was wrong. The streets were gray, opportunities were few, and survival demanded conformity. From childhood, she experienced a quiet but relentless conflict between how the world saw her and how she understood herself. There was no language for that conflict, only pressure to suppress it. Family life offered no refuge. Society offered no mercy. By adolescence, the strain had become unbearable. She escaped through work at sea, joining the merchant navy in an attempt to outrun her identity. The effort failed. Masculine environments only sharpened the dissonance. Medical authorities treated her distress as illness, not truth. She endured invasive therapies designed to correct her mind rather than listen to it. Nothing changed. The realization became unavoidable. Remaining as she was meant disappearance. Transformation meant risk, but also survival. She left Britain quietly and traveled to North Africa, where experimental gender reassignment procedures were being performed beyond the reach of British law and media. The surgery was dangerous and irreversible. It was not framed as ambition or rebellion. It was necessity. When she emerged, she did not present herself as altered. She presented herself as restored. April Ashley returned to Europe as a woman determined to build a life without explanation. Her beauty drew immediate attention. Tall, elegant, and striking, she fit seamlessly into the visual language of high fashion. London photographers embraced her. Designers dressed her. Editors praised her poise. She moved through rooms with aristocratic ease, her accent softened, her past erased. She was not marketed as a curiosity. She was marketed as refinement itself. For a brief moment, secrecy held. That secrecy carried her into British high society. She married into the aristocracy and entered a world defined by lineage, tradition, and appearances. To the public, she embodied transformation as fantasy fulfilled. A working-class girl turned society beauty. Behind closed doors, fear followed her constantly. Exposure meant erasure. Her marriage, career, and safety depended on silence. The silence shattered through betrayal. A personal acquaintance sold her story to the press for a trivial sum. Tabloids seized it instantly. Headlines stripped her of femininity with cruel efficiency. Language turned surgical. What had been admiration became accusation. Fashion contracts vanished. Film opportunities disappeared. Invitations stopped arriving. Society did not debate her worth. It deleted her. Her husband sought to annul their marriage, not privately, but through the courts. The case became historic. British law ruled that she was not legally a woman, rendering the marriage invalid. The decision reached far beyond one relationship. It codified exclusion. It announced that no matter how convincingly she lived, how gracefully she moved, how fully she was accepted before, the state could erase her with a sentence. Public sympathy was mixed with voyeurism. Some expressed compassion. Many expressed satisfaction. April Ashley was transformed from admired figure into cautionary tale. Her name became shorthand for scandal. Doors closed deliberately. The system that had celebrated her now pretended she had never belonged. She did not retreat into shame. She spoke with clarity about why she had taken the risk. Living a lie, she said, was worse than any punishment imposed afterward. She reframed her story not as tragedy, but as truth exposed too early for its time. Yet the damage was permanent. A promising career was ended not by lack of talent, but by revelation. April Ashley became something dangerous to the establishment. She was living evidence that class, gender, and legitimacy were less stable than advertised. For that reason, she was quietly removed. Over time, attitudes softened. History revised its tone. She would later be acknowledged as a pioneer. But in the moment that mattered most, she was treated as a mistake to be erased. Her story taught a clear lesson. Transformation could open doors, but secrecy was the price of entry. Once that secrecy was broken, admiration turned to punishment. From then on, the idea that hidden pasts might exist behind polished faces became a source of obsession. April Ashley did not create that fear. She confirmed it. Candy Darling grew up absorbing old Hollywood through television screens and second-hand dreams. Classic films filled her imagination with platinum blondes, slow glances, and tragic glamour. She did not want to imitate those women. She wanted to become one of them. From an early age, she understood femininity as performance, something learned through posture, voice, and longing. Reality felt dull compared to the elegance she studied frame by frame. She reinvented herself deliberately. The name was chosen for softness and fantasy. The voice was practiced. The hair was dyed and styled to echo the screen goddesses she worshipped. Candy did not wait for permission. She constructed her own stardom without studios, contracts, or approval. Her femininity was not meant to pass quietly. It was meant to be seen, admired, and desired. New York offered a stage Hollywood never would. In the underground art scene, difference was currency. Candy entered a world where boundaries blurred and provocation was celebrated. Experimental films, loft parties, and dim theaters became her domain. She moved among artists who treated identity as material rather than limitation. There, she was not asked to explain herself. She was asked to perform. Her presence on screen was both sincere and ironic. She played roles that mirrored her dreams while exposing their artificiality. The camera lingered on her face as if searching for truth, yet found only layers. Audiences were transfixed. Some saw parody. Others saw tragedy. Many could not decide where performance ended and self began. That uncertainty became her power. Candy embodied old Hollywood glamour filtered through rebellion. She looked like a movie star from another era but spoke with the detachment of the present. Her femininity was heightened, almost unreal, yet deeply felt. She did not hide her origins, nor did she explain them. Mystery was part of the role. The more people whispered, the brighter her image burned. Music, film, and fashion absorbed her presence. She became a symbol of transformation without instruction. Her visibility challenged the idea that fame required legitimacy. She achieved recognition without fitting into approved categories. In doing so, she exposed how fragile those categories were. Gender, celebrity, and authenticity collapsed into the same question. Who decides what is real? Mainstream success remained out of reach. That exclusion was not subtle. Doors stayed closed. Opportunity stopped at the edge of acceptability. Candy understood the limits imposed on her and refused to negotiate them. Instead of softening her image, she intensified it. The result was cult fame rather than mass approval. Her life moved quickly. Nights were long. Attention was intoxicating but unstable. Behind the glamour was exhaustion and illness. When she became sick, the world that celebrated her ambiguity offered little protection. She faced decline without the safety nets extended to conventional stars. The industry that admired her image did not claim responsibility for her survival. Her death came young and quietly. The news shocked those who had treated her as a mortal fantasy. In death, she transformed again. Mourning turned her into legend. Stories multiplied. Symbolism hardened. She became an emblem of beauty denied longevity, of brilliance permitted only briefly. Candy Darling did not simply live between genders. She lived between illusion and exposure. Her fame was built on desire and disbelief at the same time. That tension made her unforgettable. She proved that identity could be constructed, displayed, and loved, even if never fully accepted. Her legacy lingered not because of certainty, but because of doubt. She left behind an image that refused to settle. A woman created from dreams, rebellion, and refusal. In a culture obsessed with labels, Candy Darling became permanent question. Coccinelle came of age in post-war Paris, a city rebuilding itself through art, nightlife, and illusion. The streets glittered at night, offering escape from memory and restraint. From early childhood, she understood herself as female, long before language or permission existed for such certainty. Paris did not remove the danger, but it offered stages where difference could be transformed into spectacle rather than erased. Cabaret became her refuge. On stage, femininity was not questioned. It was demanded. Under colored lights and music, she perfected an image of elegance and allure. Her movements were precise. Her voice was soft and controlled. Audiences were captivated, unsure whether they were witnessing deception or revelation. The ambiguity heightened fascination. She did not explain herself. She let the performance speak. Unlike many others, she chose visibility over secrecy. When she traveled abroad for gender reassignment surgery, the decision was not hidden. It was acknowledged openly upon her return. The press reported it with shock and disbelief. Medical journals, gossip columns, and social commentators debated her existence as if it were a theory. She refused retreat. Instead, she stepped back onto the stage and continued performing as if nothing had changed. Her return marked a cultural rupture. The public saw continuity where they expected disappearance. She had not transformed into a different person. She had become more fully herself. The audience response intensified. Some came to stare. Others came to admire. Many returned repeatedly, drawn by the idea that beauty could survive scrutiny. Film followed. She appeared on screen not as a curiosity but as a woman whose past remained visible without apology. Her roles often mirrored her stage persona, glamorous, playful, knowingly theatrical. The camera accepted her. That acceptance carried weight in a Europe still governed by rigid norms. Each appearance reinforced the same message. Transition did not require exile. The greatest shock came when she married in a church ceremony. The image traveled across Europe. A transgender woman in a white dress, sanctified by religious ritual, unsettled both secular and conservative audiences. The marriage was treated as provocation, miracle, or scandal depending on perspective. Newspapers framed it as transformation completed. Critics framed it as cultural excess. Supporters framed it as validation. She continued to tour, refusing to confine herself to one city or one identity. In countries where transgender visibility was almost non-existent, her presence forced confrontation. Audiences examined her closely, searching for signs of the past. They found only confidence and composure. Her femininity was not defensive. It was assured. Coccinelli became a rare example of transformation that did not end in exile or destruction. She leveraged curiosity rather than fleeing it. Where others were erased, she remained. That endurance turned her into symbol. Not of controversy, but of possibility. She used her visibility to support others navigating similar paths, offering guidance rather than spectacle. Her activism remained secondary to her image, but it existed quietly beneath the glamour. In an era that demanded silence, she spoke through persistence. Her story unsettled Europe because it disrupted a preferred narrative. Transformation was supposed to end careers, families, and legitimacy. Coccinelli defied that expectation. She did not vanish. She married. She performed. She remained admired. Her existence narrowed the space for denial. If she could succeed openly, then the argument that authenticity required invisibility collapsed. That realization lingered long after headlines faded. Coccinelli did not simply transition. She stayed. And in doing so, she became one of the few living proofs that change did not have to mean loss. Katharine Hepburn appeared in Hollywood as a problem that could not be corrected. She wore trousers when women were expected to wear skirts. She spoke sharply when softness was rewarded. She moved like someone unconcerned with approval. From the beginning, her presence challenged the visual grammar of femininity that studios relied on to sell stars. She did not ask permission to be different. She insisted on it. Her independence was immediate and visible. On studio lots, she refused gowns in favor of slacks. She climbed trees, played sports, and carried herself with physical confidence usually reserved for male actors. This was not a phase or a publicity trick. It was daily behavior. Executives attempted to discipline her image, confiscating her pants and reminding her of expectations. She responded by waiting in her underwear until they were returned. Control failed. The message was clear. She would not be reshaped. Rumors followed quickly. In a culture where femininity was rigid, deviation invited suspicion. Gossip columns hinted that something about her was unnatural. That word carried weight. It implied moral and sexual deviance without explanation. Her refusal of traditional womanhood was translated into questions about her sexuality and, eventually, her gender. The whispers did not accuse openly. They suggested. They lingered. Hepburn herself fed the ambiguity without fear. She referred to herself using male language in private conversation. She adopted the nickname Jimmy and seemed amused by it. Friends recalled that she often spoke as if she occupied a masculine role within her family and relationships. She did not correct people who noticed. She leaned into it. That confidence unsettled observers more than secrecy ever could. Her romantic life offered little clarity to those searching for answers. Relationships were private, unconventional, and often rumored to be strategic. Long-term companionships with women were quietly acknowledged within Hollywood circles but never confirmed publicly. Her famous partnership with a male co-star was treated as reassurance, yet its structure raised more questions than it resolved. Separate homes. No marriage. No children. The arrangement stabilized her image without domesticating her. Hollywood struggled to manage her. Studios could not force her into the same molds used for other actresses. Attempts to soften her image failed. Audiences sensed authenticity. They responded to it. Even when labeled box office poison, she refused compromise. Over time, her refusal became her power. Roles were rewritten to fit her strength rather than diminish it. The speculation about her gender never fully disappeared. Some claimed she wished she had been born male. Others suggested she lived psychologically as one. More extreme rumors imagined hidden biological secrets. None were supported by evidence. What mattered was not their truth, but their persistence. They revealed how threatening her autonomy was to established norms. Hepburn did not identify as transgender. She did not seek transformation. She rejected categorization itself. Her challenge was not to gender as biology, but to gender as behavior. She demonstrated that authority, ambition, and physicality did not belong exclusively to men. That demonstration destabilized the definition of womanhood more effectively than any scandal could. Her performances reinforced the same message. On screen, she matched male leads line for line and gesture for gesture. She argued. She resisted. She dominated scenes without sacrificing appeal. Audiences learned to desire a woman who did not yield. That shift mattered. It expanded what could be admired. The rumors persisted because they served a function. They explained away discomfort. If Hepburn was not a proper woman, then the rules were safe again. Her existence could be dismissed as anomaly rather than example. She never addressed the speculation directly. She did not need to. Her career answered for her. By refusing to embody femininity as obedience, she redefined it as choice. She proved that a woman could live without apology, without softness, without permission. That refusal was mistaken for masculinity. In truth, it was autonomy. Hollywood could not control her image because she had already claimed it. Her legacy rests not in secrets, but in defiance. Greta Garbo entered Hollywood carrying an aura that resisted definition. Her beauty did not conform to softness. Strong lines, a low voice, and a controlled stillness gave her presence weight. On screen, she radiated femininity without fragility. Off-screen, she moved through the world with detachment and restraint. This balance between masculine strength and feminine allure unsettled audiences accustomed to clear divisions. She avoided publicity with determination. Interviews were rare. Personal details were withheld. Photographers were kept at distance. Silence became her strategy. In an industry built on exposure, refusal created fascination. The less she explained, the more people projected. Rumors did not need confirmation. They fed on absence. Her clothing choices intensified the ambiguity. She favored tailored suits, loose trousers, flat shoes, and coats cut in masculine lines. The style was not theatrical. It was practical and consistent. She walked city streets dressed like a man of the era, collar up, hat low, expression unreadable. The image circulated quietly, passed from observer to observer as proof that she rejected conventional femininity. Garbo's film roles mirrored this tension. She played women who commanded rather than submitted. In one of her most famous performances, she cross-dressed on screen, moving fluidly between masculine and feminine presentation. The role did not frame this as comedy or disguise. It presented it as natural. Audiences were intrigued, uncertain whether they were watching performance or confession. Her private relationships deepened speculation. She never married. She had no children. Companionships remained undefined. Later accounts revealed intimacy with women, though she never labeled herself. At the time, secrecy was protection. But protection also created vacuum. That vacuum filled with theory. Hollywood gossip interpreted her solitude as evidence. Why would a woman with fame and wealth choose isolation unless she had something to hide? Her withdrawal from films at a relatively young age intensified the question. Some claimed she left before age could betray masculine traits. Others suggested exhaustion with pretense. No explanation was offered. None was required. Garbo herself seemed indifferent to misunderstanding. She signed letters with playful masculine references. She joked about being a boy among friends. The tone was light, but the implication lingered. Gender, for her, appeared flexible rather than fixed. That flexibility frightened an era dependent on rigid identity. Studios capitalized on the mystery without resolving it. She was marketed as an enigma, a sphinx. Posters and articles emphasized unknowability as a lure. Audiences were invited to guess, not to know. The strategy worked. Her fame thrived on uncertainty. The rumors that followed her were extreme. Some speculated that she had been born male. Others claimed medical secrecy. These ideas had no foundation. They persisted because her image refused clarity. She did not perform femininity as reassurance. She performed it as power. That distinction mattered. Garbo's retreat from public life preserved the legend. Living quietly in later years, she avoided correction or denial. Time passed. Stories hardened. Photographs of her in menswear became icons. The absence of contradiction allowed fantasy to survive. Her legacy exists in the space between visibility and silence. She proved that mystery could be more compelling than confession. Gender ambiguity became part of her magnetism, not an obstacle to it. She was admired, desired, and feared in equal measure. Greta Garbo did not invite speculation. She made it inevitable. By refusing to explain herself, she allowed the world to imagine anything. In that imagination, truth became secondary to myth. Her stardom endured because it was never resolved. Marlene Dietrich presented herself as a challenge the moment she appeared on screen. Her body language, voice, and gaze carried authority rather than submission. She did not soften herself to fit expectations. She sharpened her image instead. From early in her career, she treated gender not as a rule to follow, but as a surface to manipulate. Her clothing became her most visible weapon. She wore tuxedos, tailored suits, military jackets, and top hats with complete confidence. On screen, she kissed women without apology. Off-screen, she appeared in public dressed like a man in an era when such acts could invite arrest. These choices were not accidents. They were deliberate provocations designed to expose the fragility of social norms. Dietrich understood spectacle. She knew that ambiguity attracted attention more effectively than clarity. She did not deny rumors. She redirected them. When questioned about her sexuality or gender, she responded with humor or contradiction. One day she played the devoted woman. The next day she told a story that undermined that image entirely. Truth became flexible. Control remained hers. Her refusal to settle into one identity gave her power in a male-dominated industry. By dressing as a man, she claimed authority normally denied to women. She dominated rooms. She outshone male co-stars. Directors adjusted around her presence rather than the other way around. Gender presentation became leverage, not limitation. The public reacted with fascination and discomfort. Some admired her boldness. Others felt threatened. Newspapers speculated. Gossip intensified. Was she simply eccentric, or was there something deeper being concealed? The lack of resolution fueled obsession. The more she blurred lines, the more people searched for explanations. Her private life added fuel. She pursued relationships with men and women openly within elite circles. Studios concealed what they could, but whispers circulated. In an era of enforced heterosexuality, her freedom was shocking. Some interpreted that freedom as evidence of something unnatural. The rumor that she might not be a real woman gained traction precisely because she refused to reassure anyone. Dietrich enjoyed the uncertainty. She once remarked that she dressed for the image, not for men or fashion. The image was control. The image was survival. By making herself unpredictable, she avoided confinement. No one could tell her who to be if they could not define her. Her films amplified the same tension. Characters were seductive and distant, masculine and feminine at once. She played women who commanded desire without surrendering autonomy. Audiences were drawn to that balance. It offered a fantasy of freedom disguised as glamour. The rumors about her gender persisted because she never shut them down. She understood that denial would collapse the mystique. By allowing speculation to breathe, she ensured relevance. Ambiguity kept her in conversation long after other stars faded. Unlike others targeted by gossip, Dietrich was not damaged by it. She thrived on it. The uncertainty surrounding her identity elevated her status. She became symbol rather than person. A projection of rebellion and control. Her legacy is inseparable from that ambiguity. She demonstrated that gender could be performed strategically, used to destabilize power structures rather than reinforce them. The rumors were not accidents. They were tools she left scattered deliberately. Marlene Dietrich did not hide behind mystery. She wielded it. By refusing to define herself, she forced the world to confront its own discomfort. The speculation survived because she allowed it to. And in that survival, her legend endured. Joan Crawford built her image through control. Every photograph, every gesture, every public appearance was managed with precision. She did not drift into stardom. She engineered it. Born into instability and hardship, she learned early that survival required reinvention. Names were changed. Ages were adjusted. Origins were polished. Nothing was left to chance. Her ambition unsettled people. Hollywood expected actresses to be grateful, pliable, and replaceable. Joan Crawford was none of those things. She demanded better lighting. She corrected directors. She monitored how her body was framed on screen. Her presence was commanding, physical, and unapologetic. That strength became the foundation of her fame and the source of suspicion. Rumors attached themselves to her authority. Whispers suggested that no real woman could be that relentless, that disciplined, that dominant. The gossip did not accuse directly. It implied. It framed her power as unnatural. Her athletic build, strong shoulders, and intense gaze were scrutinized. Costume choices meant to enhance her image were reinterpreted as concealment. Ambition was translated into disguise. Her personal life intensified speculation. Multiple marriages failed. She had no biological children and chose adoption instead. In a society that defined womanhood through motherhood, that choice raised eyebrows. Close relationships with women were noted and reinterpreted. To a fearful culture, a woman who did not submit to domestic roles became suspect. Gender rumors became a way to neutralize her authority. Crawford responded by doubling down on control. She embraced hyperfemininity on screen, glamorous gowns, stylized makeup, and exaggerated elegance. The performance was meticulous. Off-screen, she remained formidable. Stories circulated of her temper, her discipline, her refusal to soften. These stories hardened into caricature after her death, reinforcing the idea that she was somehow more masculine than acceptable. The rumors about her gender were never substantiated. They did not need to be. Their purpose was explanatory. They reassured society that such power could not belong naturally to a woman. By framing her as abnormal, her threat was contained. Joan Crawford became a legend not only for her talent, but for the fear she inspired in a system built to control women. Barbara Stanwyck projected strength without ornament. Her style was restrained, practical, and direct. She favored tailored clothing, simple lines, and minimal display. On screen, she played women who acted rather than reacted. Ranchers, schemers, survivors. Her voice carried authority. Her movements were grounded. She did not perform delicacy. Her private life remained guarded. Interviews revealed little. She avoided confessional narratives. That silence bred speculation. In Hollywood, privacy itself was suspicious. Rumors circulated about relationships with women, shared quietly within industry circles. She never confirmed nor denied. Labels were irrelevant to her work. Stanwyck did not fit the expected mold of a female star. She lacked softness by design. She trained physically, performed stunts, and carried herself with confidence associated with male leads. Critics praised her authenticity while gossip writers questioned her femininity. Strength again became the trigger. Her roles blurred boundaries further. She played characters who wielded sexual and economic power. She dominated men on screen without apology. Audiences accepted it because she made it believable. That believability unsettled norms. If she could inhabit authority so convincingly, then authority itself lost its gendered justification. Speculation followed the same pattern seen with other powerful women. Deep voice. Muscular build. Lack of maternal image. Independence. Each trait became evidence in imagined theories. The conclusion was predetermined. A woman who did not conform must be hiding something. Gender rumors offered a shortcut explanation for discomfort. Stanwyck ignored it all. She focused on longevity. Decades of consistent work across genres proved her adaptability. Directors trusted her. Co-stars respected her. She outlasted many who fit the ideal more neatly. Her endurance undermined the gossip without addressing it. The suspicion surrounding both women reveals more about society than about them. Joan Crawford and Barbara Stanwyck were not questioned because they were unclear. They were questioned because they were clear about what they wanted. Power in female form disrupted expectations. Rumor became a corrective force. Neither woman needed secrecy to succeed. Their difference was visible. Their independence was public. Yet that visibility provoked unease. Gender speculation became a way to reassert boundaries that their lives had crossed. They remained symbols of a truth Hollywood resisted. Strength does not require permission. Authority does not require masculinity. Independence does not require explanation. The rumors clung to them because their existence challenged the limits placed on women. Tallulah Bankhead lived without restraint in an industry built on restraint. Her voice was husky, her laughter loud, her presence unapologetic. She drank, smoked, swore, and seduced with equal enthusiasm. Nothing about her behavior aimed to reassure. She enjoyed excess and displayed it openly. In a conservative era, such visibility alone was enough to provoke scandal. She refused labels while embracing freedom. She openly pursued relationships with men and women and treated desire as entertainment rather than confession. She mocked morality and laughed at censorship. Her social life became legend. Parties blurred into performances. Boundaries were crossed deliberately. When accused of indecency, she responded with humor instead of denial. The more she shocked, the more powerful she felt. Her appearance reinforced the provocation. She alternated between tailored suits and revealing gowns, sometimes within the same evening. Gender presentation was a game she played for pleasure. On stage and in private gatherings, she enjoyed dressing in male clothing, not as disguise but as amusement. Cross-dressing parties, bawdy jokes, and open flirtation were part of her routine. Nothing was sacred. Everything was spectacle. Rumors followed predictably. Some claimed she could not possibly be a woman. Others suggested medical secrets, fertility issues, or hidden anatomy. The theories were absurd, but they spread easily. A woman who rejected restraint threatened order. To explain that threat, society reached for biology. Gender rumor became punishment disguised as curiosity. Bankhead seemed to relish it. She never corrected speculation. She amplified her image as dangerous and uncontainable. If the world insisted on mythologizing her, she would choose the myth. Her refusal to perform respectability made her immune to shame. She remained visible long after others retreated. Her career reflected the same defiance. She accepted roles that matched her temperament rather than public expectation. She played characters marked by dominance, desire, and danger. Even when her film success waned, her legend grew. She survived as a personality more than a product. That survival depended on contradiction. She was celebrated and condemned simultaneously. Tallulah Bankhead did not fit into any category offered to her. That refusal invited suspicion. In a system that demanded clarity, she offered chaos. Rumors became inevitable. They filled the gap where explanation was denied. Her story leads directly to a broader truth about Hollywood's golden age. The industry relied on rigid definitions of gender to maintain control. Women were expected to be soft, maternal, grateful, and decorative. Those who resisted were treated as problems. When behavior could not be corrected, identity itself was questioned. Gender rumors functioned as discipline. They reframed independence as abnormality. They suggested that strength, ambition, or sexual freedom must originate from something unnatural. Biology became the final accusation when social judgment failed. The message was clear. Conform or be reclassified. Not every difference required a secret. Many of these women were exactly who they appeared to be. Confident. Powerful. Unapologetic. The rumors existed not because evidence demanded them, but because society needed explanations for women who refused submission. Hollywood sold illusion for profit, but it also enforced boundaries for stability. Those who blurred lines exposed the fragility of those boundaries. In response, gossip stepped in where authority could not. Whispers replaced rules. The fixation on gender reveals fear more than curiosity. Fear of autonomy. Fear of women who did not need permission. Fear of identities that could not be neatly packaged. The question was never whether these women were hiding something biological. The question was why their freedom felt so threatening. Tallulah Bankhead represented the extreme. Others followed different paths. Together, they exposed the same truth. Gender in Hollywood was not only a personal matter. It was a system of control. What remains unresolved is not their identity, but our discomfort. When confronted with difference, does society still reach for rumor instead of understanding? And when freedom refuses explanation, is mystery always treated as guilt?